Hello everyone and welcome back to another Fury Warrior Mythic commentary video for Mythic Uldir. This time we're looking at Fetid Devourer. This is where I go over the fight from a progression standpoint, talking about which talents I take and generally how I approach the fight. I'm not going to be talking about Azurite traits or trinkets because unlike Legion there's no real kind of winning combo that is really particularly overpowered on a fight basis. So let's go over my talent choices. From top to bottom I took Endless Rage, Double Time, Sudden Death, Bounding Stride, Carnage, Dragon's Roar, and Siegebreaker. Not going to talk too much about why I chose Endless Rage, it's just the most competitive single target talent in that tier. Double Time, there is frequent amounts of charging required in this encounter due to the knockback and needing to get to the postules, the ads. So Double Time really quite valuable here. In the next tier, I'll be taking Sudden Death as opposed to Furious Slash. Now, although Furious Slash is, the single target kind of talent, and this is going to be the one encounter that it maybe could be used on, I'm not using it because it's just practically not very good. Not to mention the fact that Sudden Death for me at the moment actually seems higher than Furious Slash. I know for some people with low haste values, Furious Slash is simming better, but typically it's not even 1% better. And then you have the possible downtime from the boss, which means you can drop the frenzy buff. And yeah, I think Sudden Death is just the better, more versatile, more applicable talent choice. Taking Bounding Stride next as opposed to Warpaint, although there is the buff, the damage from the debuff, with only one stack, it's perfectly healable. And if you do mess up and get 2 stacks, you've always got Enraged Regeneration. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of movement, so I found that the reliability of having Bounding Stride, Heroic Leap on a shorter cooldown was just generally better across multiple pools. I don't think in the kill video I actually use it very often, but across many pools and hours of progression, I found it quite useful. Taking Carnage next, as it's just the most competitive single target talent in that row. I guess if you're really struggling on ad damage, you could go for some kind of shonky Frothing Berserker Reckless Abandon build. I've not seen it or tested it or anything like that. That would certainly be more bursty than Carnage, but over the entire encounter, Carnage is going to be a better choice. Dragon's Roar next. Not really much to say between Dragon's Roar and Bladestorm. This is just a Dragon's Roar fight. There's no ads to AoE using Bladestorm. And Dragon Roar is just up more frequently for the boss and then for the ads. And finally, I'm taking Siegebreaker. I actually did the majority of progression with Anger Management. And the reason for that is because we were struggling on ad damage. So I thought that I'd take Anger Management. Then you can reliably have Recklessness up for every single ad. Which was working fine. The ads were dying and such. But then as we kind of got close to the kill, I decided to swap to Siegebreaker. You can have Siegebreaker for every ad and use it on the boss in between each ad, I believe. And my damage on the ads wasn't noticeably different between the two abilities, Siegebreaker and Anger Management. My damage largely remained the same. However, overall damage in the encounter is higher. So starting the encounter, I'm going to be pre-potting, but not using Recklessness on pull. And that's because, as I alluded to earlier, the key to this fight is really going to be killing the ads in time. So I'll be charging in and only using Siegebreaker, and then doing single target kind of normal rotation. And you'll see I try and will always go back to the same boss position. That's because we've got 6 melee, and we're all spread out around the boss. We all have our position, and that is because when this debuff gets down to 3 seconds, it goes massive, and if it hits people, then it will spread. It will give them additional stacks. They take extra damage. Likewise, if you step into someone else's. So Shockwave and making sure to always get the charge in on the knockback. You can completely basically take that kind of mechanic out of the fight. So we've got the first set of ads incoming. So I'm going to be looking around, and this is pre-nerf. So the large ad is in fact spawning on orange, not in one of the middle positions. Dodging a breath. Now, getting to this first postule, mine is going to be star. So you can wait for the knockback to come in and charge the ad. However, it was leading to bad uptime on the ad, and we were really close on damage on some of these. So I would always run to it early to make sure I'm close to it, and then using Recklessness and Siegebreaker on that and getting as much ad damage as possible. That's largely what I'm going to be doing on this encounter. And then looking for the next mutated, the large ad. So I'm going to be charging into that one. And then just helping take that down as quick as possible. And we're going to have a charge coming in during this ad. So what I'm going to do is actually just heroic hop just back as soon as it happens. And that keeps me in melee range and, doesn't leave me off the ad for too long. Checking where the breath is. Nowhere near me. Charging back to the boss. And then trying to get my same position again. So kind of on the boss's left-hand side. next to the rogue on the right there, and then moving to make room for our DK Grokon on the left there. And then just doing the rotation as normal, making sure that when my debuff gets bigger, I'm sensibly positioned. Charging the knockback. Yeah, sensibly positioned so I don't, hit many or any people. You kind of have to be careful when the knockback's coming in that you're not going to get caught on a global and miss your charge. And again, I'm going to go to yellow. Breath coming in, so just going to sidestep that before going to the ad. And we've got Lust on this, so you're just going to Siege Breaker this one, and this should die, no worries. Charge coming, knockback coming in, can't really negate that one. I could have leaped it actually, that's maybe a mistake on my part. I could have used leap to negate that, but I don't really lose too much uptime here. In fact, the boss does come in and nearly kills it. And then because my debuff is about to go large and annoying, I get forced off the boss for quite a long time here. Now the big ad is on the far side, it's on red, so ideally what I want to be doing is get into red and then using recklessness and cooldowns on it, but it's already dead, and I kind of make a mistake here. I kind of get a bit, that's kind of thrown me off my game a little bit. It's put me out of a position where I didn't expect to be. I should have used Siege Breaker here, because then it would be back off cooldown for the next set of ads, and then normally I would have used recklessness as well earlier in the fight, and this kind of comes to bite me later on because I essentially lose a cast of it across the entire encounter. However, I'm holding it because really priority is the small ads, so I've not put it into the boss, and I'm just going to save it for the ads. So we're going to be on green ad this time, and this will be recklessness and Siege Breaker just straight into it, maximum ad damage. Like I said earlier, usually I would use this recklessness on the big ad previously, and then I'd pop this ad, but what I'm in fact going to do is hold my pop because I've got cooldowns. It's not going to be necessary. Wait for my debuff there just to go off. I think I missed this charge possibly. Yeah, I missed that charge, which is a bit annoying, but didn't get knocked too far back. Once that charge is done, then go to the big ad. So you see there's a lot of kind of like being knocked out of position, trying to time your movement, and that's really what this fight comes down to. Going to Siege Breaker into the boss. And then at this point, we're just trying to nuke the boss. But I've noticed that I'm not going to get recklessness back, so I've basically lost an entire cast. So charging that knockback. Because it wasn't used earlier when it should be on the big ad, then it won't come back up for execute, which is really shit for overall boss damage, but it's kind of can't be helped too much. In hindsight, I probably would have put it into the boss, and then just potted the last ad, and I've just potted now during Siege Breaker and execute, as I didn't use it on the third ad because I had cooldowns. Does that kind of make sense? Going to charge this knockback and kill the boss. Sadly, recklessness being on about 3 seconds when it dies. But a kill's a kill, and it's really about putting your cooldowns into the right places as opposed to just using them like, on cooldown all the time. It should be worth mentioning as well that you didn't see it in this kill video because it didn't happen, but on quite a lot of progression pulls, you can survive the breath. So if you're, tunneling a small ad and on the far side of the room and the boss targets you for the breath and you're in the middle and you don't want to come off the ad because it will essentially not die, then you can enrage, regen, and rallying cry, and make sure you're topped up, and then you'll survive the breath hit at about 15%. Bear in mind I've got 166k buff there. I think where you use your cooldowns will largely depend on how your raid kind of sets them up. Hopefully you kind of got a feel from my kill, kind of where I use mine and how I use mine. It's certainly not the way to get the best logs as for an overall pass. It does get the boss killed. I think in coming weeks when ad damage becomes kind of irrelevant, I will be changing my cooldowns, using them on pull a bit more, and just kind of being a bit more, how you would normally, which is using them as frequent as possible. And also getting put on the big ad. If you can get put on the big ad, then your overall boss damage will be so much better because you've just got more uptime on something. Whereas when you're on the small ad, you do a lot of moving around. But anyway, hopefully you found something useful, and I will catch you on the next one. Zul. Hopefully it should be next weekend. The guild actually killed it on Sunday the 14th, but I was away, so I missed the kill. So I should get the kill next reset. Anyway, cheers. See ya.